You probably won't get your perfect job right out of school, and in fact, even a couple of jobs out of school. Money and career are important in everything, but if you go to work every day miserable, then what is the point? And when you are aware of this, you can slowly start to work through the parts of yourself that could have come from your upbringing that you want to change. Hey, hello, welcome or welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about life advice that I want to share with my 20-year-old self or any of you guys who are still in college or university and are preparing for the next phase in your life after school, which is working full-time and being a fresh graduate student. I know it's a little bit weird that I'm making this video because I really only just graduated a couple months ago and I'm only 23 years old, but I still do feel like I have quite a lot to share. So anyway, grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's get right to it. I'm going to get the most boring piece of advice out of the way, but arguably also the most important, which is to please get your financial systems in order. If you're familiar with this, please feel free to skip over this point and go to the next one, but I wanted to highlight it because I think it is so important to do this because it will set you up for the rest of your life. I am not a financial advisor and this is not a financial channel, but I really strongly believe that this is an area of your life that you need to understand and to take control of before you enter the workforce. It will make your life so much easier in the long term. I personally started monthly budgeting and investing in college, and having and developing good financial habits from college has really helped set me up for continuing them into adulthood. So I know everyone has a different starting point when it comes to personal finance. Some people know a lot more than me and some people know nothing at all. And so I'm just going to be sharing some basic tips to get you started if you fall into the latter category. First of all, I think it's super important for you to have an understanding of your specific financial situation right now. Do you have any debt? How much savings do you have in your bank? Start keeping a budget of how much you spend every month, because knowing exactly how much you owe or how much you have coming in and out every month will help you get a better idea of your net worth at this point in time and how to start building it up slowly over time. If you have any debt, please focus on clearing off your debt. I have to say that I don't know very much about paying off debt because I'm very privileged to have graduated college without any student loans. So definitely look at other YouTube channels for specifics on how to deal with debt, which may include things like trying to negotiate for a lower interest rate on your loan, or figuring out how you can pay off your debt whilst investing or saving at the same time. From what little I understand, clearing off debt is really important so you don't have something hanging over your head. As I said, please do your research and check out other financial resources to figure out how to best deal with paying off your debt. Third thing is to get insurance. Insurance is so important to make sure that you are protected financially in the case that anything bad happens. And it's better to get it when you're younger because that means that first of all, you get lower premiums. And secondly, from what I understand, if you have pre-existing conditions, which usually happen later in your life, it can usually be very difficult to get onto insurance plans at that point. So get it earlier rather than later and protect yourself in case anything happens. From what limited I understand, I think people in their 20s usually get hospitalization/medical insurance. Life insurance is for when you're a little bit older and you have people who depend on you, which may be your older family members or your kids if you have any, even pets. For me, I think I have health/hospitalization and disability insurance, and I also buy travel insurance when I go overseas. I also, when I was studying abroad, had personal accident insurance, if I'm not wrong, which covers a whole bunch of different things. But as I said a billion times already, I am not a financial advisor and everyone's situation is different, so please do your own research and figure out what you need specifically. Once you have all the basics covered, you can start to build up your emergency fund, which is basically 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. This is basically the amount of money that you would have in the event of a rainy day, in case something really bad happens, emergencies happen, like your car breaks down, or in the very unfortunate case that you might have lost your job or need to transition to a new job and don't have income. This emergency fund is what makes sure that you are financially stable in that transitionary period. So please build out your emergency fund before you do anything else like invest, etc. So once you have all of these covered, then you can move into investing, which is basically trying to beat inflation and making your money work for you. I think a lot of people feel very secure when they have all their money just sitting in the bank, but the interest rates in banks are extremely low. I definitely had a period of time where I liked just holding all my money, but I realized over time that it would actually be a lot more financially wise to invest it in some kind of investing instrument, to make sure that your money grows over time. Some ground rules for this is to never invest in something that you don't understand. I know a lot of youth, and myself included, invest in ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, index funds, and people who are not sure just give their money to robo-advisors. I personally manage my own ETFs, but really there are so many different ways to approach investing. For me, I definitely take a very stable and secure approach. I take the tried and tested route, which is why you will never find me investing in things like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. I just put my money in the things that have been shown to have long-term performance, and my intention is just to hold them for years at a time. But as always, please do your research and figure out what's best for you. I can't really give wholesale advice because I don't know your specific situation, and also because I'm Singaporean. Whilst you might be American, you might be from another part of the world, which means that there are different investment instruments that might be more available or make more sense for you to invest in than the things that I'm investing in. So yeah, investing feels really complicated, but I think if you just take your time to learn a little bit about investing every single day, you will find that you'll become more comfortable with the idea of investing over time. The next thing you can do is to research and understand key financial terms, funds, and tools. Every financial instrument will come with its own set of jargon. Like I think with insurance, I mentioned the word pre-existing conditions and premiums. You will also find the word riders used a lot. And of course, there are many different types of financial accounts depending on which part of the world you're from. For example, in the States, there's the 401k, there is the Roth IRA. In Singapore, we have CPF, along with many other Singaporean-specific investments and tools available to us. Learning all of these things, as I said, will take time, but they are also very essential for you to gain a better understanding and greater confidence so that you can invest more securely and more confidently moving forward into the future. And if you've done all of these things and are looking for the next step, the next thing you can do is to start planning for retirement. It seems really early to start thinking about this in your 20s, but I can promise it isn't. Search up the FIRE movement on YouTube or Google, and if you're interested, you can learn how to calculate your FIRE number, which is essentially the amount of money that you need to have in investments in order to live off your investments for the rest of your life. At that point, you've reached financial freedom, which doesn't mean that you have to retire if you don't want to, but it means that you just know that you're financially secure at that point. I know that if you've never heard of personal finance, never dabbled in it before, I just threw a lot at you. But this is my plea to please start researching, learning, and taking it seriously. This is so important to do for your future self. Phew, okay, now that is out of the way, let's get on to some non-financial things. Okay, let's move on into the work category. I think before you start working, it is so important to think deeply about these two things. First of all, consider what key elements of your life are important to you now whilst you're still in school. Is it the fact that you get to have long meals with your friends? Is it the fact that you get to spend a lot of time working on your side projects and your side hustles? Or is it the fact that you get to have a leisurely morning routine or a really long workout session at the end of your day? When you start working a 9 to 5, the reality is that the amount of free time you have in your days and your weeks becomes extremely limited, and so sometimes you need to prioritize doing some things over others. That's why having some clarity over what brings you the most joy in your life can be really helpful. Secondly, I think it's very important to think about what you want your life to look like and how you want work to fit into that. Do you want to be a high flyer on the corporate ladder, or an entrepreneur, championing many of your own businesses? Do you want to have a lot of time in the week to spend with your family? These are things that you might not really know when you first graduate, but over time, when you start working, you can get a sense of whether your priorities are being met and whether you're happy or not in your current position. For example, for me, my ideal life is to either be well established enough in an organization or financially free enough such that I can either work part-time or have fewer hours of my week spent on work, so that I can spend my free time volunteering or pursuing my other hobbies or passion projects. And knowing that that's what I'm working towards is my guiding light and helps me remember that there might be some periods of my work life that I might not enjoy, but it's okay because it's all part of working towards my dream life or something even better. And that's another note of advice right there. You probably won't get your perfect job right out of school, and in fact, even a couple of jobs out of school. But if you know what it is, you can start taking the steps to work towards it. And if you don't, you will probably figure it out along the way. My next piece of life advice is to learn how to create boundaries, and this can mean in relationships, at work, and so on. Nowadays, I think the term draw boundaries is thrown around everywhere, but actually putting it in practice is a lot harder. Drawing boundaries means defining the limits that you set with other people and how you want to be treated by others. So for example, drawing boundaries at work means that you are setting up expectations with your teammates and your boss about how you want to be treated as a worker and an employee. It could mean things like learning to say no if you have too much work on your plate. It could mean not responding to messages or phone calls after work hours or on weekends. Of course, I think at work especially, you might need to actually be able to prove that you are a good and efficient worker to your boss in order to demand for these things. But I think if you are a reliable employee who really does try their best, then I think a really understanding boss should respect your boundaries and understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, I think sometimes it's super difficult to advocate for yourself at work because it can feel like you don't really know what you can and cannot say. It's very difficult to predict how your boss might react and how they may perceive you if you draw certain boundaries. I, for one, haven't had to do this at my job, and I'm worried that when I eventually have to do it, my boss might think of me as someone who's lazy or unambitious. The reality also is that if you do this, it might mean that other people are prioritized to be promoted or get hold of important projects before you are. But at the end of the day, I think you need to ask yourself, is it more important for you to hustle super hard and earn lots of money and climb the corporate ladder, or to have a good sense of mental health and also time to nurture other parts of your life? And whatever your answer may be, there's no judgment from me, but the only thing is that you have to make sure that you're comfortable with the outcomes. But let this video just be a reminder to you that if you start working and you're not happy because people don't respect your boundaries or they don't respect the way that you want to be treated at your workplace, I'm here to tell you that you do not have to stay. I've heard many horror stories about people in toxic work environments where they are overworked and or underpaid, and I don't want anyone who's watching this to have to live that reality. Money and career are important and everything, but if you go to work every day miserable, then what is the point? Okay, let's move on and talk about family. You will get to learn and see that your parents or guardians aren't perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just people like you and me, people with stories, histories, problems, regrets, and oftentimes issues, insecurities, and even traumas that they need to work through. And because they are our parents, they will pass down a lot of their own behaviors, beliefs, and mindsets about things, whether positive or negative, to us as well. Which is why intergenerational trauma is a real problem, and why happy, healthy children usually come from happy, healthy homes and families. That's why you see that if a parent is combative and angry all the time, their child will either respond to frustrations in the same way or be extremely afraid of conflict. It's also why, early on in our lives, we will subconsciously internalize our parents' views on things like money, sex, and so on. And it takes a long time to unlearn a lot of these mindsets that have been instilled into us in childhood. The more you grow up, the more you realize how much of an influence that your family background has on you. And when you are aware of this, you can slowly start to work through the parts of yourself that could have come from your upbringing that you want to change. I think that's why it's so important to learn to become your own person, to start listening to your own voice and to the things that you actually care about. That's why I think as a young person, it's so important to spend time through practices like therapy, meditation, journaling, whatever wellness practices work for you, to understand yourself and figure out your values, your beliefs, your mindsets. I think especially if you have very overbearing parents, it can feel very difficult to do this because you probably lived a lot of your life trying to seek their validation. But I think a big part of growing up is learning that this is your life and you need to start living it for yourself. If not, you're never going to be happy. So start interrogating your beliefs and mindsets around things like love, money, sex, success, body image, because a lot of these things have come, as I said, from your parents. So figure out what you actually want to believe about these things. And it's never too late to rewire any negative programming you have around these things if you want to do it for yourself. On that note, I will end the video off for today because I think it's already getting really long. If you've already graduated, please leave some of your own advice in the comment section below for any other college students who are watching as well. With that, I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video coming real soon.